I came to... Well, I'm not sure how much time later. All I knew was that my body ached something fierce, and that the last thing I remembered was the brief sensation of falling to my death. But given how shit I felt, I guess I hadn't actually died. A small groan escaped my lips as I turned myself over and off of my face. The world started to blur into focus, and I found a world that had seen the apocalypse all over again. The elevator was now at an angle, sparks and flashes going off all around me. I was covered in a thick layer of dust, little pieces of twisted rubble lying all around me. My pitbuck was still flashing red, the stable cult diagram looking quite distressed. I know the feeling, buddy. I slowly brought my hoof forward, as agonizing as the action was, so I could get a better look at the device's diagnosis. The torso region was flashing the most, the status bar holding only a sliver left in it. All my other limbs seemed to have taken a beating too, and I imagined I had fractures all over my body. Ultrix! I called out to the changeling, noting my voice was little more than a croak. Anybody? No answer. Seeing that I was alone, I slowly reached out for a Med-X from my bag. The moment I got the morphine into my system, some of the pain started to die away. Not all of it, but enough for me to sit up. I was sure my spine had been damaged from when I hit the elevator. Hell, who knew what other damage my bones had suffered? I was really wishing Ultrix was here. Then she could easily have better examined the damage and done smart things with it. But as it was, I was probably dying and she wasn't here. Healing potion it was, though I was unfortunately aware that if any bones were misaligned, that this was going to be very bad for me. I just had to hope that they weren't. I took a sip from the healing potion, even more of the pain dying away. My body was allowed to slacken a little, relief flooding my senses. It didn't seem like I had just inadvertently paralyzed myself, so I had to take that as a good sign. With the stable cult looking a little happier, I forced myself forward and dragged myself out of the elevator. I had to use my magic to open the door a little further than they'd been knocked by the impact, but they offered little resistance. Once I was free, I found myself in another faceless corridor somewhere in the bowels of the facility. Not ideal, but I gently stretched out my limbs, seeing no activity on my eyes forward sparkle for the moment. Still, that could change again quickly. If I was going to get back to my friends, I needed to... Wait, where's my gun? Whipping around, I quickly hopped back into the elevator to retrieve my assault rifle. However... Oh, shit. The rifle was well and truly bent in two. Looking it over, a lot of the insides had probably been crushed when the sentry bot had hit me. Yeah, this thing was never going to fire another bullet. That's 2 guns I had lost recently. Why does the world hate me? Guess my 9mm will have to do for the time being. Stepping back out of the elevator again, I looked left and right down the corridor. Like upstairs, there was a second elevator along the wall. However, beyond that, it was just a dead end. The only way to go seemed to be right of my elevator, where there was a corner leading around to wherever this all led. I started to move off, slinking up to and peering around the next corner. There seemed to be a few inactive turret emplacements along the roof down the next corridor, but my pistol could probably deal with those after a few shots each, so long as nothing bigger came along. And then, making me wish I had never thought anything, I heard a familiar sound of a panel sliding away. The red bar appeared right as I turned to spot the emerging sentry bot behind me. "Hostiles detected," the deep robotic voice declared. "Firing." I fired first, aiming for the head as my pistol's bullets just uselessly pinged off its armor as its minigun started to spool up. Alright, forget fighting, running. I ducked behind the corridor as an onslaught of bullets cascaded into the empty wall. I didn't stop as the barrage ended. I could hear the tracks starting to roll. I bolted down the corridor, making sure to enter SATs as the first turrets came online. After lining up my shots, the first 2 guns went down before they could let off anything. The third, however, opened up as I passed. I felt the heat of the shots landing around my galloping hooves and the excruciating burns of the few beams that hit my barding. Fortunately, as it did outside, most of the energy was absorbed, while the turret failed to hit my exposed head. I just fired blindly up at it as I rushed past, a shower of sparks and a cease on the laser fire indicating that I had hit my mark. And then, just as I turned to the next corner leading rightwards, there was a pop and a whoosh as something was fired behind me. Rushing down the next corridor, I felt a tremor as the missile exploded where I had just been. Yeah, still running. The current corridor split off to the left about halfway, and likewise continued to a closed door at the very end. I ignored the turn, running right toward the door and hitting the button. Access denied. What do you mean, access denied? I could still hear it getting closer. Fuck it all. I backtracked, slipping into the turnoff and trying one of the doors along it. It didn't open, nor did the next, or the one after that. And that just left me at a dead end. This place just wasn't playing fair. I pulled another grenade from my bag and prepped it. This little thing was going to be my last hope, and I was painfully aware of it. The moments immediately after were painful in of themselves, hearing the approach of the automated tank as it prepared to send me to the ever after a bit too early. The moment I saw one of its legs roll into view, I threw the grenade. It bounced down toward its target, detonating directly underneath the bastard as it turned the corner. The explosion dented the armor, but it did little more than that. You have got to be kidding me! I shouted. I was angry, damned angry. This stupid thing was going to put all that we'd worked for to an end like this? Come on! Fuck you! I aimed my pistol and started to fire, not stopping for a moment, even as it rolled closer toward me and raised its minigun. My bullets continued to ping off of the armor, doing little more than create more scuffs along the metal. I had nowhere to go, nowhere to run. All I had was this little thing. Damn it. I saw the minigun start to spin, my thoughts turning towards Xena and my friends. They'd be fine. They'd reach the mainframe. They would. My latest clip ran dry. And then... the robot didn't shoot. Have a nice day. What? The robot lowered its weapon, turning around and heading back the way it had come. A moment after, all of the doors around me started to open. Attention! A voice sounded all around me. Robotic defenses have been set to standby. Direct your queries to Security Chief Hoofcuffs for more information. Fuck me! Impeccable timing, guys. Well, at least this meant that the others had done their thing. I guess they'd pushed their way to the mainframe. The Steel Rangers would be happy. Still, I hope they'd all made it all right. But holy Celestia and Luna, that was... Ugh! I hate robots! Right. Ignoring the fact that I'd almost died for the millionth time this past month. Yes, one of the doorways had opened to a staircase. I think I will be taking that one. I started the climb, moving up one floor to try and get back to the others. Unfortunately, when I got there didn't seem to be a door. Seeing as I had no idea how this place was laid out, I guess I was just going to be wandering around until something stuck. At least I didn't have to worry about the death machines following me anymore. One more floor up, the door was jammed. I gave it a look over, tried unjamming it with my magic. Nothing. It was well and truly stuck. So, to the top of the building I go. The door up top ended just fine, thankfully. Stepping through, I was admitted into another corridor, albeit this one had windows lining the wall to my left. Looking inside, I could see quite a large office space. Following the corridor along, I was met with another turn-off hallway which broke up the two separate blocks of office cubicles. An unlit sign was hanging from the roof, the indication on it being that I had just found myself in the administrative offices. And my map marker was leading directly ahead. I took the turn, heading off between the two offices. I reached the door at the very end, opening it to reveal a rather snug little room with 3 doors leading off of it. There were 2 alcoves with deactivated protect-a-ponies, and the roof was lined with ceiling turrets. And honestly, I had no doubt that some of these walls could retract to admit more sentry bots. A choke point. I was very glad all of it was turned off. The doors to the left and right looked like they led into the offices of the ponies whose names were etched onto a plaque next to them. No pony I recognized, just the people who ran this place 200 years ago, I guess. The door directly ahead, however, Twilight Sparkle, Ministry Mare. I was here. I cautiously approached the door, more than a little worried as to what other security measures Twilight might have included back in the day. But to my surprise, it just opened, as normally as any other door. The office was modest, to say the least. There were no windows or any particularly homely decoration beyond the several bookshelves lining the walls. The floor was covered in a green carpet, and the office had wooden walls compared to the bland metals of the rest of the building. It almost felt like a schoolteacher's office, more than that of one of the most powerful ponies in a pre-war Equestria. I wonder if all her offices in the hubs were like this, or maybe they differed from location to location. I walked around the wooden desk at the end, examining everything on its surface. There was a terminal that was sitting idly on the desk. There was a lamp, a pair of dusty reading glasses, and an ancient picture frame with the image of Twilight and her friends. They looked young. I sat down on the chair, turning my attention to the terminal, which was on a login screen. Damn it, why wasn't Cobalt here to hack into it? Maybe there was a password around here somewhere? I opened up one of the drawers at random, being met with a whole load of files. I gave them all a quick glance over, just looking at the titles. OIA Van Hoover Ministry Hub's monthly report for October, supply request Maripony, classified Golden Blood activity, security note from Security Chief Hoofcuffs. Maybe that last one has something. Ministry Mare Twilight. Respectfully, ma'am, after all the effort we've gone through to make sure this hub is secure from Zebra infiltrators, why is books your terminal password? And yes, I know it. I had one of our guys try to break in as a test and he got it on the first try. You're surrounded by books. It's not even remotely subtle. Please change your password. Make it the date you first kissed a stallion or something, or a mare, whatever. Just please make it secure. Respectfully, Security Chief Hoofcuffs. Result! Assuming she hadn't changed it, but let's try it. I closed up the drawer, returning my attention to the terminal and trying my hoof at entering the password. And then, to my equal relief and small amusement, it dinged to indicate a successful login. For all the secret projects and authority, Twilight had been such a dork. Looking at the menu, I could see several options that seemed to be mostly meeting schedules and research notes. Nothing I particularly needed, but there was an option at the very bottom that read Site B. I clicked on it, and 3 more options came up. The first one was exactly what we needed, and just what Watcher promised that we would find. I made sure to plug in my pipbuck and copy the access code file over. It just seemed to be a randomly generated string of letters and numbers, night and day to how crappy Twilight's own personal password had been. Still, the file was safely stored onto my pipbuck and ready for use. And just like that, there was a ding as that objective was marked as complete. A new one was automatically added to replace it. Access Site B. Glad to see it was still keeping track of it all. Still, my attention was then caught by the remaining 2 options. First off, there looked like there was an audio recording on the terminal. Curiosity striking me, I clicked on the log and let it play.
So, I just got back from Site B,
I heard Twilight Sparkle say.
It's a disaster. Another one. That's all we seem to get now, isn't it? One screw-up after the next. It's like a loop I can't escape from. But in order to end this war and save every pony, I need the alicorn potion. And now to make the alicorn potion, I may also be required to make one that will turn changelings into changeling queens.
I heard her depressed sigh, the mare silent for several moments before continuing.
I can't trust Chrysalis. More than I can trust some pony like Golden Blood, sadly enough, but not by much. Who knows what Chrysalis will do when she has that power? Will I just be ending one war in order to kick off the next? I don't know. All of us, everything we do, we only seem to make things worse. Where did we go so wrong? How did it all come to this?
Another sigh and a small thump that suggested she had either hit her desk or slammed her face into it.
I miss Spike. He'd always have some words of advice in a time like this. But he's sleeping. And probably wouldn't want to see me anyway. Not after the argument we had the last time we saw each other. Celestia, I am such an idiot. That dragon has been here since before all of this, and now I've driven him away. I hope he knows I still love him. Maybe I can tell him that when he next wakes up. I just hope the war will be over by then. I don't even know why I'm recording this. I guess I only have machines to talk to about my problems now.
I bit my lip, listening as the ministry mare choked back a sob. Her breathing became heavy, She was clearly doing her best not to break down crying.
Damn it.
And then the log ended. Dear Luna. She'd been heavily depressed by the end of the war, that was for sure. I wasn't certain who this Spike was. And he was a dragon? I'm not sure, but whoever he was, I doubt she ever saw him again. And given all that I know, Twilight probably returned to Splendid Valley not long after this recording. She obviously completed the Alicorn potion, sort of. And then the world ended. Just another ghost of the old world. I moved on to the third option, removing the log from my mind for the moment. It was entitled Venomous.
This is a prototype magical energy rifle modified from a standard issue Shadowbolt rifle. Now, their rifles shoot bolts of highly concentrated magic rather than the long beams of destruction magic most energy weapons do. The bolt is generally far less accurate, but far deadlier. I have my reservations about Diamond Flash and Flash Industries as a whole, but they know how to make their weapons. Still, as much as I don't like the necessity of these weapons, I have an idea for a new variation. Our studies at Site B on changeling magic for our new Stealthbook model have been insightful, but the exact properties of their magic are particularly fascinating. Their magical bolts actually display an almost corrosive property. Ordinarily, it's a small difference, just a minor increase in the burn produced by a directed bolt of mana. But amplified, changeling magic almost burns like some of the most severe forms of acid. As such, I've tinkered with a Shadowbolt rifle provided to me by Rainbow Dash, and replaced the spell matrix with a changeling magic one, rather than that of a pony. From there, I've cranked up the capacitors and made some other modifications in order to bring out the spell's most acidic properties. The resulting weapon, dubbed as Venomous by the others at Site B, deals around the same amount of damage to a target as the standard rifle, but the corrosive effect is enough to melt through power armor. This could be useful on the front lines against enemy armor and zebra robots. However, there is a danger that, should one be captured, that the weapon could be reverse-engineered by the zebras and turned against our Steel Rangers. Applejack would have my head if she found out. I think I'd better sit on this one prototype for a while. I have this new Alicorn potion idea I wish to pursue anyway. Let's just see where it goes.
There was one more option revealed beneath the text. Open safe. Clicking it, there was a whirring from behind me as a wall panel parted. A second panel emerged, a small rack appearing on which a pristine rifle sat. The weapon looked rather steampunk, the body being a mix of dull gray metal and painted yellow, several wires jutting out from the side along with little vials of green magic floating around inside. The very front of the weapon was a clear reinforced glass casing with more of that green magic focused within. I carefully took Venomous off of the rack, along with the energy cells that were also secured to it. The weapon was a far cry in design to the box-like laser weaponry I had seen around. This was far more like the two guns I'd seen strapped to Kronos' side, only with green magic rather than red. And if this was the kind of gun used by the Shadowbolts before the war, I was willing to bet the Pegasi up above favored this kind of design. Still, none of them had one like this. Strong enough to melt through power armor? Changeling magic? After everything that had happened, with what I was trying to do, taking it almost seemed oddly poetic. With the new rifle slung across my back, for which I was feeling a bit more confident with than just my little pistol, I turned from the office and exited out the door. I still had to find my friends, and then we could finally leave this city behind.